Hi everyone, I am Anju. Welcome to my channel Excel Made Easy. In this video, we are going to talk about pivot tables because you might be having daily basis data entries done in a large number, but at the end of the week or month or year, you might want to see it in the summary form. So let's have a look at that. Pivot tables are a powerful tool to summarize your data in Excel. So I am considering this order revenue sheet for the example, creating a pivot table. And this data has been saved as a table. The name of the table is orders. So you can notice in the name box, there is an orders table existing. So this is the data on which we will be creating a pivot table. So insert tab has the option for creating a pivot table. Here in the pivot table, we can choose the option either table or range or from external data source. Right now, I am having the sheet with me where the data is placed, and on the same file, I'm creating a pivot table. So I can choose the option table range. Had it been a different sheet on a shared drive or maybe on another location, then in that case, you can choose the option external data source. So I am using the option table range right now, and then it will show me the table name here because we were already in this place. So the table name has been already selected. So I am creating it on a new worksheet, and here we click on OK, and you will notice a new sheet is inserted where a layout of a table has been shown. And this is the interface of a pivot table. When you are in this area of a pivot table layout, you will notice some changes on the screen. There is a pivot table fields pane which is existing here. And then we have two tabs, pivot table analyze and design. These tabs are going to use for managing the look or the behavior of the pivot table. So we will be using them time to time. And this is the whole field list. The columns that we had in our data, they are referred to as the fields over here. And using them, we can create a pivot table. So I am taking one example right now. Let's say I want to see region-wise total order quantity generated. So region-wise number of order quantities I want to see. Here, region is the grouping on which I want to see the order quantities. So the groups are placed in the rows section or maybe in the column section of your report. And the calculating items, that means order quantities that I want to calculate right now, those will go in the values section. So I am checking region, and by default it goes in the rows section. You can also place it in the columns. And then we have the order quantity field. If we just scroll down, we have order quantity, and we select order quantity, and that by default goes in the value section. Reason is simple, because rows were the text type of data, so Excel by default assumes that it is going to be used for grouping, and order quantity was a numeric data, so it was assumed that we want to do some calculation on this. You can always change the position by drag and drop. For example, if you drag this region from row to column, this is how you're changing. So you can just simply drag and drop the fields to change the look of your pivot table. So if you look at the table right now, based on the fields which we have placed in the different sections, we can see regions coming in as the groups and sum of order quantities, because this is a summary table that is to be created. So it is going to calculate all the values, and by default it's a sum function when we placed it in the value section. But instead of sum, if you wanted to do some other calculations, you can always go to drop down. There is a value field settings option. These options you can find on the tabs also. So it's your choice from where you want to take it. So instead of sum, if requires, you can use other functions also. Okay. So right now, sum is the requirement for my pivot table. So I'm just keeping it as it is. Even the label can be changed. That sum of order quantity which is coming as, I can change it to total order quantity. Okay. Just by clicking in the label, I can change it, or from the value field settings also, we could have changed. So these are some of the small modifications that you can do in the pivot table area. And sometimes you might want to, see it in a different look. So table design, this design tab will give you different ways how this pivot table can be referred to, and then you can utilize these options. Now there is a grand total coming at the end. This is because in the design tab, if you see the layout group, this is the place from where you can choose certain options of a pivot table, whether you want to display them or not. So right now grand total is displayed because it is on here. So if you put it off, then the grand total will be removed from the pivot table. So it's up to your report requirement whether you want to keep it or not. Okay, so I'm just switching it on to see the grand total. Now, this data has been placed in order revenue sheet, and if there is a change in that data, suppose it's a real-time data and the changes are happening time to time, then in that case, will the pivot table show you the latest updates? Let us have a look at it. Right now, if you see the central region, there is total order quantity as 744. Let's go to the order revenue and pick up one of the central region record. Let's say this one, Bhopal, and we have order quantity as 68. So what if I change it to 80? We'll be able to see that change. Will the quantity increase by 12? 744 has not changed. So we can notice that if the source data is changed, pivot table does not show the updation automatically. So it is different from formula. Formula are updated automatically as soon as there is a change in the source data. But in case of a pivot table, you must refresh your data to get the latest updates. So we can see that here in the pivot table analyze tab, we have a refresh option. So if you click on the refresh button, now you will notice that the value is updated. So this is a very important part of pivot table, that whenever you are making a change in the source data or you're expecting that some change might have happened in that, it's always a good practice to refresh it if you want to show the latest data. Now you might want that you want to compare each region order quantity with respect to the total. So maybe you want to see how much percentage of order quantity has been placed by each region. So the sum which is coming over here, we can show it in a different way. We can go back to field settings. And if you notice that right now there is a sum function which is selected, I go to show values as how we want to show this sum value. So right now there is no extra calculation done on this sum. What we are going to do, we are selecting a calculation as percent of grand total. It means considering grand total as a total value, the percentage of each region will be calculated. So I'm selecting this option and let's click on OK. And we can notice it shows the contribution of each region in the total order quantity. So sometimes you might want to reflect it this way also. But what if you wanted to show both the things, the total number also and their percentage relation also? So in that case, what we could have done, the order quantity can be placed once more in the values. So I am dragging it because it's already checked right now. So we drag and drop it in the values section and it has come again. And now you can notice, because this time we have not done any extra calculation on this. So you can notice normal sum of the order quantity has been displayed. So this is something which you can show as a summary table, their percentage contribution as well as in the numbers also. But what if you wanted to show sum of order quantity in numbers before the percentage? So not to worry, you can just change its position. You can reposition the values which are displayed here just by simple drag and drop and move up options also. So this is how you can change its layout, and pivot table can be shown exactly the way you want to show it to your target audience. Sometimes you might want only some calculations to remove from here. So let's say this total order quantity which was in percentage, I want to remove this. I can simply drag and drop it outside. and it can be removed from the pivot table. So for every small requirement, you don't have to create a new pivot table. We have categorized region-wise order quantity, and you might want to, see the subcategory under this. That means in each region, which product categories are, there in the order quantity. That's what you want to analyze. So product category is there here. I can drag and drop it next to region, and this is how it can be displayed. So under every region, we have the subcategories of the product, and then we can see their total order quantity. So that 756, which was coming as a total of central region, that is actually divided into these categories in different forms. So the total is calculated, which is called as a subtotal, because it's on a particular group, and there each product category has been quantified. Now, sometimes you may or may not want to see these totals. So we have already seen in the design tab that in the layout area, you can decide what to show and what not to show. So as per your report requirement, you can choose to put it off. This subcategory can also be displayed, because right now you notice that each category is coming under the region. What you could have done, you can actually create a tabular view of the same. I am dragging this category from row to columns, and now you can notice there is a tabular view of the whole table created. And the best part of this is that if there was some entry missing, like for example, in the north region, there is no order quantities for the accessories. So that's coming as blank. So that's how you can actually analyze your tabular data. So each view is giving one or the other kind of information in itself. The entirely depends upon the requirement, how you would like to show and what kind of analysis you want to do. So based on that, you can actually club different options. So suppose I want, right now, if you notice the columns, this column is, very narrow, and the columns are broader. Reason, they are auto fit as per the name of the category. So you might want to give a look to this table that uniformly all the columns should be displayed. So what we can do, we can select all these columns, and in the format column, which is in the home tab, we can change the column width to 15, let's say. So now each column is coming with the equal width, and the pivot table looks cleaner in this case. So if required, you can do that. But what will happen if you refresh it sometime? On refreshing, basically the column width will come back. Why? Because in the pivot table analyze tab, we have options. Here in the options, by default, auto fit column width on update is selected. So if you wanted that when you refresh a pivot table, this column width should not be disturbed, you can uncheck this. So when you uncheck this on the refresh, later on this column width will not be disturbed. This will remain as it is. So these are some of the changes which you can apply. Once you are confident in handling these options, there are further more options which you can explore on your own. So it's quite easy to use pivot table in Excel. The only thing is to gain the confidence in the beginning to start with this. I'm just going to take one more example of a numeric type of data if you want to create a grouping on this. Let's understand that. I'm not using region here. I am not using category here. Actually, what I want to see, the order quantities based on the revenue categorization. Revenue is a numeric field. So we have a net revenue over here. So when I add revenue, since it's a numeric field, I will just drag it to the row section, because by default it is going to go in the values section. So I'm dragging it here. Now, by default, you will notice that each revenue-wise order quantities are coming. So for the order 14,679, there are 21 order quantities. So this is the significance which is given over here while adding the revenue. But this is not what I wanted to see. I want to see how many order quantities are there which are carrying less than 50,000 revenue, how many are between 50,000 and 1 lakh revenue, and how many are between 1 lakh to 1 lakh 50,000, and so on. So that is the kind of grouping I want to see in my data. So for this purpose, I'm just right clicking on this revenue group, and we go to the group option. In the grouping, if you notice, by default, there are some values which are entered. This is taken from your data. Starting is the smallest value which is present in your data, and ending at is the highest value which is there in your data. But this way, the grouping will not become cleaner. So what we do, we start the grouping as 50,000, and let's say we end it up to 3 lakhs. At the interval of 50,000. It means every 50,000, it will create a group, and how many total order quantities are there in that will be displayed. So I'm creating a group like this, and let's click on OK. And this is where the grouping has been done. So this is a clear categorization. 50,000 to less than 1 lakh, we have 1273 orders. 1 lakh to less than 1 lakh 50,000, we have 910 orders. And if you notice, I had given the starting value as 50,000, while as in our data, there are some orders which are less than 50,000 also. So what Excel pivot table has done, it has created a group on the top that is less than 50,000, and all those order quantities are placed in that. So similarly, by chance, if there was an order which was greater than 3 lakhs, so I had given an upper limit as 3 lakhs. So what will happen to those orders which are more than 3 lakhs? There, here at the bottom, there will be one more group created, which is greater than 3 lakhs, and those order quantities will go in that group. So that's how you can create grouping in your pivot table. Hope this video gave you a better understanding of pivot tables. Happy learning.